Well, hello there and welcome to another episode of Back to the Clubs with me, Major K. I'm a DJ, producer and record label owner, and in this series I'm talking to other DJs about their club experiences. How has the clubbing life changed? What was their first club gig like? And what can be broken but never held? The answer to that is a promise. The answers to the other questions are often surprising. Previous guests include Nico Parisi, Insulate and Vanilla Ace, and last week Mike Push. Today it's Nico Morano. Before we introduce him, be sure to subscribe to Back to the Clubs in your podcast app. Give the show a raving rating too, it helps more people find the podcast. In your podcast app, you can also find my weekly mix podcast, Flash Forward Presents with Major K, and @OfficialMajorK is my handle on all socials, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter and TikTok. And now, Nico Morano, the Belgian producer and DJ, describes his style of music as emotional deep house, and that it is. Saw him play a couple of times and he always takes you on a trip through his universe. He's a really thoughtful guy, and in the interview he gives a great insight in how clubbing in 2023 isn't the same as when he started, and how he experiences that evolution. Very insightful, as you will notice. This interview was recorded on September 5th, 2023, to give you some perspective. Enjoy the show! Here we go!
Back to the Clubs with Major K.
And this time in Back to the Clubs, we have a very special and warm person on the other end of the spectrum. It's none other than Nico Morano. How are you?
Hi, Kevin. I'm very good. Thank you very much. It's we are in the post-summer period.
Yeah.
So the last festivals are going on in Europe. So it's still happy times, and we have an Indian summer here in Belgium. So can't complain.
No. So how many festivals do you still need to play at?
Good question. Tomorrow I'm in Tel Aviv, a club gig. And then on Sunday it's Voodoo Village. So that's a big one with a cap of 12,000 people. And then the week after is in Holland, Into the Woods Festival. Also one I look very forward to, with an amazing lineup also there. So that's about it. On the 16th, I think the festival season closes for me. Or maybe still to be confirmed, something end of September, but a late announcement maybe, but not confirmed yet.
Late present for yourself.
Or for the people.
And for the people, of course.
I hope so.
Of course. Yeah. How has the summer been so far?
Busy. Very busy. Started in May. The outdoor season, let's say, and then it's every weekend, 1, 2, 3 bookings. Sometimes if you go to countries like Israel, you have also bookings during the week because their weekends shift, so it's one day earlier, so you can take an extra booking.
Right.
It's been a very busy one. I think 30, 40, 50 gigs somewhere. Yeah,
that's a nice one. And I saw that there's a lot of new stuff that came out even this year. I think you had 8 releases.
I didn't count,
but well, I did, and that's a lot. That's a lot. It's is that one of the things that you like doing best, being in the studio, or do you like performing, or what's your?
As I started as a DJ, I get the energy, of course, like it's a classic. It's from the crowds and from different countries, new people you meet, new DJs you meet also and you hear. So it could also be an inspiration. On producing level, the last 2 years, of course, with Corona, I also spend a lot of time in the studio. So I prepared a lot of ideas, and also I prepared a full album, which is being dropped in the course of this year.
Okay.
And now, to the beginning of October, the full album is gonna drop. So, and that's something I'm really looking forward to because it's my debut. album, and it's kind
How
of
different is
exciting.
that from just releasing tracks now and again?
It's kind of scary. I was really like, okay, so the story is I met a singer in February 2020, right before Corona, and I was looking for a kind of one certain voice, and via I got to know Gilles Miwai. He sang one song for me here in the studio in February 2020, and suddenly the world goes into a lockdown in March. And we were confronted with the concept Corona buddies. So in Belgium, we could choose one friend, and at that point, I didn't have let's say, a steady relationship. So Gilles was my Corona buddy, and we spent a lot of time in the studio. So from one track came another, and another, and another, and suddenly we had 4 or 5 tracks where we could hear really the potential. And then we said, yeah, okay, this is gonna last a long time, this Corona thing, use it so we better effectively. So that's why suddenly we ended up with 11 tracks. Yeah. So it's 11 originals with all the same singer. So it's there's a consistency in there. And the scary part is because it's made in Corona, it's made without dance floors, with another perspective. So there are tracks inside with 80 BPM. So pretty slow, let's say, and emotional. And it goes to 125. So there's a variety of tracks inside. And that's the difference when you're dropping single tracks. Here you can write a story like it's a cliche, but it's true. It's something you otherwise can't do because you put the focus on one single and then a remix comes and blah blah. But you're not able to make the full story. Like for example, imagine Bicep, the album they launched. There are 3 key tracks, and these are put forward on the radio, and then another 7 tracks which the people can discover at home, and they don't have to be all dance floor oriented, but it's nice to discover when they feel in a different zone. It doesn't have to be all super dance floor minded. And I'm gonna give you a very good example. The second single which I released, Unilove, on the album, really didn't have any expectations, and it was like quite slow and very emotional, and a track of plus 8 minutes. So it's really not the Spotify recipe,
No,
let's say.
That's true.
Totally not. Yeah. And suddenly it exploded, and 4 months later we're at 1.6 million. So it's sometimes you don't have it under control, let's say, and it's a nice thing which happened. So
and is this going to be your approach for the future as well, or what's the ambition? Because you're releasing the tracks, then the album is dropping in October.
Yep.
And then the creativity, it's still there. What are you going to do? The approach of single-mindedness, or the album approach?
So first of all, there's the full album, which is already finished like months ago. Let this be clear, because you have to make sure that everything gets online on time. Everything to follow guidelines. So everything is already done. So I'm working already on a lot of new material for next year. So no, there is still inspiration, but now it's more dance floor minded, like fully dance floor minded, because after Corona, the dance floors opened again. So it's with another mindset that the new tracks are made. So expecting 2024 again, real dance floor burners, let's say.
Yeah.
But there will be a combination of emotional too, because I really love to do this, because it's not only about the dance floor. A lot of people are in front of their computers, they're at home, they want to be in a certain vibe, and they discover new music on Spotify or on Apple Music or whatever. And I'm super happy with all the messages you get from there too. And that creates a nice base, a fan base for people that will discover you then on the dance floor in a certain country. And you can really track this with Apple for Artists or Shazam, and then you can see in which territory you are quite significantly successful based on listening behavior.
Yeah. So that's something that you really look at as well. Do you adapt the style or whatever, or is it just good to know?
It's good to know. I don't think I adapt, or it's unconsciously, but I don't think so because I just want to make music which I think could be heard in another 10 years, not like very
Yeah.
now. Because I have the impression I hear a lot of music from the present.
Mm-hmm.
And I try to do something different. It's not easy, but we are so flooded with in momentum music, which is not for me.
Presets that are popular at a certain time
Yeah.
and are used over and over and over again. And
Yeah, but we could go in the negative direction about AI and all the
yeah.
and all the tools which are available for young producers or people without a lot of experience, let's say, and they want to do it.
Yeah.
So we will be confronted with this, but there will be no style in this type of music because it's going to be a copy of something which already exists.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where you need to make as an artist a difference. And I'm going to give again the example of Bicep. They created like their own
Personality,
vibe.
really.
Personality. Yes and no, because if you would run into these two guys on the street, you would recognize them.
No, but I meant musically speaking, not like the image and not like the Instagram, but musically speaking, they created that world of their own.
Fully agree, but that's the thing. They were really focused solely on music and not too much on the social game. And the rest comes. Let's say if you see their gigs and how they made Pickle Pop explode or Glastonbury or every city where they come, they are just the kings. So let Bicep be a nice example.
Yeah. Okay. And inspiring for a lot of people. You, for instance, but a lot of other artists perhaps as well, that there's a different route, that you don't need to just walk the trodden paths, so to speak.
Absolutely correct. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, let's dive back into the clubs. Back to the clubs with Nico Morano. It's that moment. Start with the first club you ever went to, not as a DJ, but just as a young person going to clubs. Which club was that?
This is so predictable or not predictable, but my first steps were made in Zillion in Antwerp.
Oh, really?
No joke. Yes. So
okay.
I was 16, and this was the first club I did because a few friends of mine from Mechelen, my home city, they asked me, Nico, club opened. And yes, so totally special experience. But these were the first visits. 5 times I think I visited this club. But then I rapidly moved to other clubs.
Yeah. Can you describe that Zillion experience a little bit for people who weren't there at the time and don't know the club?
Yeah, so it's called a mega. Means 4,000 or 5,000 people could enter the club. Different rooms, a big main room with fireworks. Everything I've never experienced. I didn't experience it before because I didn't visit the club. But afterwards, when I could compare with other clubs, it was something truly special at that given moment. At this moment, if people would see what they did over there in that time, they would say, well, it's okay. We have seen it, because people go to awakenings, they see fireworks flying every 5 seconds. Be as exciting, I guess, for the youth at this moment. But at that moment, it was really amazing. Yeah. But musically, it was then less my thing. So I directly started to shift
towards other clubs then.
Yes.
And which were those?
Also in Belgium. So we're talking about Illusion, Lier, Club Factory, the former Rio.
Yeah.
La Rocca a little bit, but not so frequently at that time. After clubs like Cream, You could also find me on Sundays in karaoke. It was a combination or obsession on so it was like ongoing. So you went on Friday to that one, and then on Saturday you went to that one. Blah, 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 blah. Drug-free and not with substances or something. That was purely out of love for the music, and that was really the time of trance.
What kind of spoke to you in trance? Why was that such a genre that really did it for you at that time?
I think at that time that was some kind of way underground. Doesn't mean if you now speak about Tiesto, at that time it was the big guy. It was like Solomon now. Mm-hmm. But it was like really like considered as really serious, and if we would now look back at it and they would say, yeah, but it's easy trance music. But it has to start somewhere, and it was all done with analog gear. So the capabilities or there were limitations, of course. Now we have so much at our possibilities in a studio. Of course, it sounds different, but at that time, really, that did it for me.
Yeah. And so you were 16 when you first went to Zillion, and then you did the clubs. And at what point did you think, well, this is what I really want to do in life?
Well, the thing is, on my 16, my best friend's brother, he worked in a record store in Mechelen also, BCM, with Frankie Jones and etc. Yes. And
at Frankie Jones, yeah.
And so it was every Thursday that we went to the record store. It was like, I loved it. It was like all the DJs came on Thursday to the store. Mm-hmm. So at that time, €10, €12 for a vinyl. You had to be picky and you needed to be sure that you wanted to play that record. So because now we are in the lifespan or the life cycle of a track is really short. At that time, it was not so short because you invested in that fine one track for €10. Now you can buy 5 or 6 tracks for that same amount of money. So, or you get a lot of promos these days. So
yeah.
The business changed, but at that time, that had so much charm of going to the store, meeting the DJs, looking at the package they got of vinyls, which the store owner put aside for you, so you felt a little bit exclusive. It's my package. I loved it. Yeah, I spent so much hours in the stores digging that gold. Then also, for example, if you could go to London, you go to Plastic Fantastic, or you could go to all the special stores where you think you can find exclusives. Loved it.
Yeah, special experience.
Yes.
Just delving into those tracks, listening to them in store, I think, right? With the pickups being available to you.
Yes.
And then making your final selection. And then how did that progress to really being a DJ?
Well, I didn't finish really my story. So the guy who worked in the store, he was like a DJ in Fuse. And when I came in his house and we looked at the room where all the vinyls were against the wall and where we had a Gemini 626 mixer. That was a classic. I can start to smile when I see this mixer. Yeah. Probably now it sounds like shit. Sorry, Gemini. But at that time it was like the holy grail, and really it had such an aura being a DJ, some kind of way. I really wanted to do this, so I started to collect vinyls. And on my 17, I recorded mixtapes mixtapes at home. And I had a special DJ room at my house. My friends came to visit. We had a pre-party before we went to the clubs. And so I took the car of my father, an old Peugeot 405, which had a cassette thing inside. So yes, we went to the club, and there suddenly there's a guy, a bar, the responsible from the bar, and he says, "Oh, what a nice sound. Great mixing. What is this? From where? Is it from Karat or from the..." I said, "No, it's recorded at home." "Well, I'll present you to the boss of the club." Presented me to the boss of the club, gave the mixtape, and the week after he asked me, "Do you want to mix here in this club?" Just a tryout. I did. It was successful. He asked me to become a monthly resident. And after 2 months, they asked, "Do you want to come every week?" There you go. As from my 17, I was a resident DJ at Illusion.
Oh, and that's how you became member of the Illusion family.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I played there like for 10 years, I think, from Fridays to Saturday. Then I made a combination of both. Then the club took other directions in terms of music genre.
Yeah.
So I didn't feel comfortable anymore with that. The festivals were also growing a lot, so the clubs went down.
Yeah.
So I shifted. I went to another club for 2-3 years. So yeah, life changes. But the story is really great if I look back at it and how.
That's awesome. Yeah, absolutely. And Illusion, what did that look like? The venue itself.
It was a former swimming pool. You would step a few levels down, and you're really in the pool. So of course the dance floor was more deeper, and yeah, it was cool. So you had the stairs a little bit up, so it was like a little bit the feeling of a how do you call it, an arena.
Yeah.
So there were 1,500 people, and then a few years later they built a second level on the club. They called it the level. So you had 1,500 people downstairs and 500 upstairs. And it was every weekend packed, ram-packed. It was a good time for clubs at that point.
Yeah. Those times have gone a little bit, I think.
Absolutely. So the times have changed. Festivals came up, so people were not interested anymore in going every week to the same club, because this was, at that point of time, the concept. Like it was one family. If you were an Illusion family member, I think 70 or 80% of the people you would meet next week again in the club. Baroka had also their own crowd, etc. And then they moved a little bit, and sometimes your style changes, but it was really a friendship which was built amongst clubbers. And I really enjoyed that time. That was really special, and that's completely shifted. People, they get mobile phones, because when we went to the clubs, it was like you pick the phone, bam, you dial the number, a fixed phone, and you say, okay, 11 o'clock at the doorstep of the club. Okay, good. And everybody, your gang, needs to be there. There was no opportunity of canceling. So even if you didn't feel like it and you were sitting then in your sofa and saying, oh, tonight I don't feel it. Yeah, but you had an arrangement. You agreed on going to the club, so you go. There was no way of... There was a word in Flemish. They say, af sms'en. Die sms'ing. And that was in the dictionary, I think maybe in 2000... saying something. 2005, suddenly a word, af sms'en.
Yeah, canceling by text.
Yeah, canceling by text. This was and one word, and this didn't happen before. So it's a kind of a different lifestyle, and now people just choose last minute, which looks visually cool,
compelling,
and also like they just want different stuff. They just want to have different experiences. The world is their oyster, and one weekend they want to go to Berlin, next week they want to go to Lviv. So they make a city trip, but a city trip is expensive. So that means one weekend they go out instead of 4 weekends. So the consumer behavior, if you look at it on an analytical way, it changed a lot.
Still, there are a lot of clubs still around. There might be less than there used to be.
Yes.
But still, in Belgium and abroad, a lot of clubs. What do they need to attract people to really be... Well, for you, for instance, why would you go to this club and not to another one?
A unique selling proposition, a USP of a club. So for me, that's a mega good question. But that's personally, as an audio addict, for me, it's all about the sound and who comes and play there. So for me, lineups are still very important. How the club looks like is not so important for me. It's really like more like audio-wise is the good sound system and who's going to play there that evening. Because now clubs are more like venues. There are only a few clubs with a certain typical style which they keep on communicating and keep on pushing that it creates an identity. And this identity is gone in a lot of clubs for the moment. And this is the part which I don't like. But and that's why a lot of clubs shifted from offering one style, and they are now more like venues, like offering external promoters the chance to organize different stuff. Yeah, different music styles, different, and that's somewhere okay. But that's just the difference.
Yeah.
But it's not for me. Like I'll give you a very good example in Tel Aviv, just because it comes to my mind. I was texting to a guy who runs a club there this morning, and it's called Sleepers Club. Mega underground club in a parking garage, 250, 300 people, but they do consistently book nice DJs. Long sets, 3, 4, 5 hours. And everybody knows, we go to Sleepers, darkish. You come into the hallway, everywhere graffiti. It's like you have to find a way. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's proper clubbing. And will you attract young people there? I don't know. No, because they want to be there with their phone and film big visuals, etc. But that's not it. So, luckily, there are clubs who are trying to offer a counter proposal, like also ban phones, like in Berlin. I was playing in Watergate a few weeks ago, and there phones are banned.
Oh, really? Oh, I didn't know that.
It took me back into in time,
Yeah.
and really I was like, oh yeah, people are enjoying again the moment, and people don't think about their phone. Then they're just again connecting. That was lovely to see. It was an amazing experience. This week I saw a podcast from Floyd Levine, and he said like, guys, I have to say this, but I forgot how good it is in Berlin. And he was really like, he played at Sisyphos, and every club in Berlin, or almost every club, is cell phone free. So he talked about Sisyphos at that point of time. But you also go to Kater Club or iKater, also no phone, open airs, Berghain, no phone. So it takes us a little bit back to where we come from. I don't say that everything was better in the past, but it gives you a little bit the impression that's easier to connect with people. And that's where we need to go back to, in my opinion. Yeah. So, to come back to your question, what does a club need to offer at this moment for me? A kind of an identity, no phone policy, and try to deliver a consistent message. So people know I'm going there and I know what to expect.
Yeah.
In Berghain, they sometimes it's a bit hard techno, sometimes it's a bit more disco-ish, etc. But then you go to the Panorama bar and there you have this style.
Yeah.
But you know what you're gonna expect some kind of way.
But it's a good example, and it's good rules to live by, and that clubs should think about doing.
Yeah,
because you make the experience that more special, because no one else can be there, or can see what happens there. Only if you're there, you can see what happens and to connect with the DJ and the music and stuff like that.
A good example in Belgium is Fuse.
Yeah. Absolutely.
With all my respect to Fuse, which exist already for 25 years, and they try to consistently bring the same recipe. Okay, the techno genre changed. Yes, it's a bit different. A few years ago, it was more Richie Houghton, etc., and bleeps and blah blah blah. Now it's harder and it's faster and etc. But they stick with their recipe. On Saturday, you get techno.
Yeah.
And on Friday, yes, sometimes they do a melodic thing, sometimes it's more disco, then it's more event based. But Saturday, this is Fuse. And this is what they communicate. So they say, okay, Saturday is our Fuse day. And on Fridays, it's more promoter.
Yeah. Promoter driven. Yeah. One of the things that you mentioned as well is like if the lineup, it's still important for you. So could you tell us if there's one DJ performance that comes to mind from someone you saw play somewhere in a club that you thought, well, Wow, what a set.
Yes, absolutely. Like take already 10 years ago, maybe. I was on Ibiza going to Pasha on Sundays, and it was Solomon plus one. And I went with one friend, just one guy. We wanted to focus on the music. Solomon was at that point of time not the god he is right now. It's I don't want to go now to Pasha on Sundays because it's too crowded. It's more hype, blah blah blah. At that time, it wasn't. There was space to move, and it was really, really, really enjoyable. And it was the start of the deep house at that point of time. It was 2012 when he had his hits. 2012, Google Solomon Dynamic, and you had a different vibe. Now, this is all okay, but then he invited Adriatic. And there the love really came for these two guys. I was like, these guys know how to mix. They loop everything perfectly at the end. So it's consistently, you're into the drive and they don't let go. If they play at this moment, at after parties, they play like this. Mm-hmm. At the moment, when they play big stages, because they grew a lot, that's also already changed. So it's...
Yeah, I saw them at Tomorrowland. It was a good set, but as you say, it's bound to be different when they're doing their own stuff, not in a festival environment.
I guess if they could choose, they would prefer the first one, which I say I'm 100% sure. If you go to Mexico and you go to Bar Americas and you go and see Adriatic there for 7 hours, they take you on a trip, you fly to the moon, you come back and you say, whoa, what was this?
Yeah.
So this is really... I've played also one time with them in a club in Belgium called Zondag. And it was on a Sunday, of course, and that was one of the most magical moments in my life in terms of closeness of the people. People really understood. I was blown away also there. So, yeah, if I can choose, I could definitely say Adriatic is technically and musically one of my favorites.
Yeah. And with that, you kind of answered the next question. What was your memorable set that you ever played? Most memorable one? Well, this one that you just described seems to me that this is a candidate for sure.
Yeah. And another one. We discussed already prior to this podcast about Tomorrowland. But when I did my first or my second edition, I think in 2014, I played at Tomorrowland at the Ketaloco stage, made in bamboo, at a place on the festival where there's now a restaurant, so it's completely, you can't find it anymore. But it had so much charm, and it was so nice. And I know I was so scared. It was the first time, I think, Tomorrowland for me, and I was bound to not to open the set. I was the second one in lineup. Mm-hmm. It was at 2:00 in the afternoon, so everybody's still entering the festival. We'll be very, very honest. You don't expect a lot of people at that time at a given stage. So, okay, I came at 13:45 at the stage. I was looking from the back through to the dance floor, and there was nobody, really nobody. I was like, oh God, I was so looking forward to this. Yeah. Nobody. And all my friends said, Nico, we will be there, and blah, blah. Everybody was excited. But nobody, maybe 2 people. I said, okay, let's go. We'll just do it. And 10 minutes later, no joke, Kevin, the dance floor was completely packed, ram-packed. 500, 600, 700 people there. Okay, it's not the 20,000 like on the main stage, but
it doesn't need to be.
The fact that it shifted and that the people were there, they believed the story. I still get goosebumps when I look at these videos. This was the early video stage, so there were a few phones. Yeah. Quality is crappy, but there were 2 or 3 videos, and they give me goosebumps still every time when I see this. Yeah. Wow. So yes, this is certainly one of the most memorable moments in my life.
Yeah. What I noticed now and what I noticed throughout the chat we are having is that for you, storytelling is a really important part of DJing.
Yes, I just can't play 1 hour bangers. This is not my thing because I was used to play every weekend in the club. So yeah, but you would get bored if you play every week the same set and the same tracks. So you tend to embrace the fact that you get a 3 hour set. So I push promoters to give me 2 hours or 2 hours and a half. It's sometimes also financially more interesting for them. But on these 2 or 3 hours, you can tell so much more than 1 hour peak time sets.
Yeah.
No, so you have to take them on a story. Like last Sunday, no joke. Last Sunday, I played at Marco Belli's boutique festival, Electronic Zoo. I came without sleep from Istanbul. I was totally complete a wreck ship. I didn't feel good at all. And then I arrived 5 minutes before my set. Luckily, I made it. But after this first record, the first ladies came to the front because this is important and this is the key message I want to give to young DJs or older DJs, no matter what. But if you have female dancers in the front, the party will get started.
Yeah, ladies on the dance floor.
Ladies on the dance floor is super important.
Yep.
And this is my mission. That doesn't mean that you have to play Hum Papa and no, just quality music, which they can appreciate. You don't need to bang directly from the first moment. You have to get them on the dance floor, commence your story, and then they will follow. And this is what happened. Now, that gave me so much energy. I loved it. I really loved it.
And so the tiredness that you felt before from the trip and from the gig that you played last night, it just dissipates, and it's So that's nice what music can do, not only for you but for people as well. If you say, well, the ladies are joining us on the floor, and you can see that they are having a good time throughout the night, mission accomplished then.
Yeah, I think so. And the men, they follow, they understand, and then they say, okay, this is I can appreciate this too. So no, it was this is my mission.
Yeah. Is there a club that you've been to the most throughout your years as a club DJ, but just as a club goer as well? Well, it doesn't change that much because you started DJing 1 year after you went to the first club. So, is there a club that you visited most, apart from perhaps then Illusion, where you were resident?
To be honest, I didn't really visit. I didn't visit a lot of clubs outside my professional career, because it was just already so tiring or so packed every weekend. So it's not that I took the time to discover new clubs. No. So apart from all the residencies, I think 3 or 4 different ones.
So Illusion, and what other residencies were there?
Insomnia Club. So that was somewhere in the middle of the fields, somewhere in Flanders. But it was a nice club. So Insomnia Nights. I played a time on Sundays also in La Rocca. Mm-hmm. I hosted one Sunday there. And then I also was a resident at Zondag, really the west of Flanders. Yeah. So yeah, these were a little bit the fixed clubs. And then there are clubs which book me 3-4 times per year. Yeah. So can you consider it as, well, it's not resident, but...
Yeah, but you're a regular at least. Yes. Yeah, a regular, yeah. You talk to other DJs, well, you meet other DJs on the festival circuit, I think, perhaps in clubs as well. Is there one club that they are talking about right now that is supposed to be the best in the world that you know of?
I always had in mind, I wanted to see Naples and you can die. There's this expression. And for me, this was visit Warung in Brazil and I can die. So Warung Club in Brazil was for me like the place. But last year, it burned down. So it will not happen. No. It's a pity. This was one of my targets or goals, let's say. Then the people talk a lot. And in terms of vibe, I've already dropped the name. But Bar Americas in Mexico is also very, very high appreciated by a lot of DJs. But there are plenty good clubs. No, but it's really difficult to pinpoint. Depends on the style and the vibe and what you're attracted to. So it will be probably also differing between us. So
yeah. But perhaps this question is more something that you really can answer. Well, you talked about that club, of course, that burned down. That's a shame.
Yeah.
But is there another club that comes to mind that you really want to play at that you didn't play at before? Like bucket list wise?
Yeah, I have to admit, there are plenty of clubs in Berlin which I didn't do yet. So I would really say, okay, the same clubs there, like Sisyphos, Kader, Watergate I already did, Ego. Turkey has also very nice clubs. I've been recently in Jordany. It's more a hotel. It was on the rooftop of a hotel, so but it's also weekly parties, so it's an open air club. You can consider it like this. There's still so much to discover. I didn't see anything yet.
Well, and that's a good way to end this interview, I think. There's still plenty of opportunities, though there are less clubs, especially in Belgium. But though there are less clubs, there's still plenty of opportunities to go back to the clubs. And that's a nice thought, at least. Nico Morano, thank you so much for being here. It was a delight talking to Nico Morano. Hope to catch up with him soon. Don't forget to subscribe to Back to the Clubs in your podcast app and find me as @officialmajork on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter and TikTok. Go get your Back to the Clubs logo t-shirt on dancemusicmerch.com. That's dancemusicmerch.com, and support the show. Next week in Back to the Clubs, B-Man. She's a German producer and DJ from Munich, and we connected at ADE a couple of weeks ago. The interview isn't recorded yet, so I am looking forward to discover her stories. And for now, see you next time and enjoy the sunshine. Bye bye.
Back to the Clubs with Major K.